Hopefully you were able to watch part 1 of my adventure around Worth County, Missouri, and here's all the places that I went in that video. In part 2, we are starting in the northwest corner, continuing our trip down to Sheridan, Missouri. We've made it over to Sheridan, which is the second largest community in Worth County. I think I remember seeing the population was 145 at the 2020 census, and it had been, in the census, early census, over 400, and even I read near 500 maybe before that, and dropped over time, and then kind of stayed put for 30 years, maybe even went up a little bit, and then the last census in 2020 went down quite a bit to 145. Sheridan was started and named after, I think, one of the original families that lived here. It was a railroad town, and so the railroad went through here. As I'm driving around, I'm going to these little towns, and started in Denver and Allendale, and then hit some ghost towns. I was thinking, well, Sheridan's going to be kind of happening at some level, and it's very, very quiet. Now it's a Saturday, so I think there are a few businesses here that probably operate during the week. But yeah, I was maybe hoping to get something to eat, but I couldn't find anything like that. I read that there were like 25 businesses at one time here. And you could see it. I mean, it's laid out. You got a little downtown area. You have a nice square here, this park. So it's, you can see what it used to be. And I guess probably with Grant City being the county seat, most people are going to go there. There was a school here that you can see, and I'm guessing when that closed, that was probably a big reason why population went down as well. That's pretty common thing to happen. So interesting, very quiet, second largest town in Worth County. Back that way from Sheridan, coming down to the Bethel Cemetery. You gotta love that sign. This is actually a small little cemetery. Got a friend, he's showing me around the cemetery here. These are pretty cool looking. Died 1892. It doesn't seem like that's that old. Maybe it's newer. That's like straight out of a horror movie. I love it. So it's like they have a tombstone for the church, as well as obviously being a cemetery. So I don't know where the church was. There's one old building over there, but I think it's an old house, but I'm guessing they tore the church down. Most of the cemeteries are marked from kind of, main roads, so that's a nice thing that they do here in Worth County. We found a great old school in Oxford, Missouri. This is obviously a ghost town. The only thing here is a school and a cemetery, and then there is a little kind of cluster of houses They're in 3 different spots, so when you do the drone footage, you'll be able to see kind of how they are. But the school is right here by, kind of on the main road, and it's it's interesting because it's a long school. It's like 2 rooms instead of like the standard. You see them just like with 1 room and then that's it. This has a couple different rooms there. Oxford was started in 1856, and it was named West Point because there was a person here but the last name West, so they called it West Point, also known as Rose Hill for a time. And then in 1861 it was named Oxford after Oxford, England, and had post office till 1905, so 44 years of a post office. And I don't know how old the school is, but it probably lasted much beyond 1905, I'm guessing, at least to serve this area, probably on into the 20th century for a while. And glad that it's still standing. Pretty cool area. The cemetery is also pretty cool. It has a nice little entrance with some nice shrubbery, and then it's kind of shaped funny. Has a it's a big area like all these cemeteries have been, and then way back in the corner there's a little spot with some older headstones back there. We've made it around to our last incorporated town of our trip today, and it is appropriately named Worth, and obviously named after the county. It came a little later, 1872. Some of these towns we've been going to are older by a decade or 2 or 3 decades. And Worth is about a quarter the size that it was maybe in like the 1930s. I don't know what the population was prior to 1920 because the census doesn't go back that far, at least the information doesn't. So it could have been a little bit bigger, and now it's in the 60s basically. It's a very interesting town to explore. I'm standing here right in the middle of town, and it has the Worth bandstand. It says 1915 and 1999, so maybe it was originally built in 1915 and they redid it in 99. And as you kind of circle around, there's an old like Michelin building here, just all kinds of old cars and trucks in it. There's a new post office, and then there's older buildings. There's a couple churches down the way. As you drive around, it has quite a bit of like ghost town feel, a lot of abandoned buildings, and then it has some nice houses. And then right over here behind me, there's a little area where it has like a dedication to people who died in military, but then on the other side it lists 15 people who died in a tornado here in 1947. And so you can imagine, with the population back then being 100, 200 people, 15 people died. That would have been a rough tornado. Almost 10% of the population. So really rough day. kind of a good official town to end in. But we got one more place that we're going to go before we wrap up. Final stop in Worth County, and we're at the Fairview Cemetery. It's kind of hard to, like, it's easy to miss. It's a little grass exit off the road, and so you got to kind of know where you're looking and come to the Fairview Cemetery. You're like, why are we ending here? What does this have to do really, except it's just a little cemetery? Because this was near, I don't know exactly where, but it's near where the original county seat was. It was called Smithton, and about 1861, when the county was formed, Smithton was the town that had the records, and they were trying to become the county seat. And then Grant City, which is just up the road a couple miles, and hopefully you have watched the Grant City video that I've already done, Small Town USA, so you learned all about the history of that, and it became the county seat in 1863. So for a couple years, though, right around here, just south of Grant City, there was a town that was building and trying to become the county seat. After they moved the county seat, that was basically the beginning of the end for Smithton, and a few years later, the post office closed. But then, just a few years after that, a new town in the same place popped up here called Prohibition City. And there was a gentleman here that was certainly a prohibition guy, and he was, wanted to make that, a bigger deal. So he named his town Prohibition City, and it wasn't, much more than a couple buildings, maybe a business or two, and had a post office for only a handful of years, and then that's it. And now all that's left here is the cemetery, which is pretty much every headstone is over 100 years old. I walked around and I didn't find anything from before 1924, which would be 100 years ago. And so it's very, possible that this was the area that those towns were in. So what did you think of Worth County? I can tell you I had a lot of fun today. I didn't have a lot of expectations. We started out with some really great small towns in Denver and Allendale, and then we found some ghost towns. We found a lot of cool cemeteries. I don't know anything about this area because I live in Wichita, Kansas, but it's fun to always learn about the history of these counties and how it was much bigger, and now it's dwindling and getting smaller, and we've kind of learned why today in our journey. So hopefully it doesn't get too much smaller. I think being the smallest county in Missouri is plenty small enough, so hopefully it can maintain some population and this history can stay here. Hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. And now that you're here, let me tell you a little bit more about all the other things going on this channel. If you want to become a member, you can become a member on either Patreon or YouTube memberships. There's 3 different levels, and as you are on a different level, there's more and more things, behind the scenes videos, different things that you're going to be able to gain access to. Make sure you check out my website, travelwithawiseguy.com. There's a whole bunch of new stuff on there. There's a merchandise link with some new cool merchandise. There's a newsletter that you can sign up for. About every 3 weeks I send out a new newsletter that's free. I have Google Maps, which has documented every place that I've made a video about, and you can click on there and you can go to the map and you can find the videos that I made, and it's all in one very convenient place. There's lots and lots of other stuff on there, so make sure to check out the website and explore all around what I've got going on. But once again, thank you so much for watching this video. And now on to the real reason that you're at the end of this video, the outtakes. Is he gonna come visit me? Nope, he turned around and left. You never know. People get curious when you have a tripod and a microphone in a place that most people don't visit. Okay, where was I? Come on over. It's all good. Hey. Oh yeah, you're friendly. Do you know anything about the Bethel Cemetery? that's nice. No comments from the peanut gallery. Okay, we've got a wooden death go around with a piece missing there here in Sheridan. Let's see how we do. A little wobbly, but I like it. Yeah, I got that piece of wood missing. That could be a problem. But yeah, I don't know. Pretty solid. I like the uniqueness of it. I haven't come across many that are like this. So we're going to give it an 8.